Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Kaylin and I am doing a no buy month for the month of October, and I just wanted to do a video where I talk both you and myself out of buying things, because this applies to me as much as it does to anyone watching, and I just wanted to think about basically the logic I use whenever I feel the urge to buy something and how I talk myself out of it, and try to share that with you, and hopefully it'll be helpful to someone. So basically, I wanted to start off the chat by talking about how you probably don't need to go shopping or buy anything. Like, if you think about it, how often do you actually really need something, like on the level of basic human needs? Like, how many objects do you feel like you have bought just sort of spur of the moment that have actually lasted and made your life better long term and brought you fulfillment and you don't regret the purchases? I'm going to kind of go ahead and guess that you probably don't have anything missing from your life that you desperately need, and you probably have a perfectly good substitute at home anyway. I feel like I have had times in my life when I've been a shopaholic. Maybe not in every area of life, but I have certain weaknesses like clothes. I kind of got addicted to buying records for a while, or like books, beauty items. Like, a lot of this is like far in the past now, and it was maybe when I was a student or whenever I was like a young adult and I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. But I do feel like the weakness for clothing in particular, and music related items probably, and books are all still there. I don't think you can go from being a consumer to not having that mindset at all overnight. It's a gradual process, and sometimes you just need a bit of encouragement and for somebody to tell you why you don't need to go shopping. And I have found my brain almost talking me into going shopping in the past. Like, even in the recent past, I have had times where I think, oh, I could use this item, and then I'm almost coming up with excuses to go to certain shops, and I know it's a trap for me, because when I come out of them, I'm going to come out with bags and bags of stuff. There's no way I'm leaving with that one item, because that shop in particular, it just makes me spend like when I walk in, because that's the way it's designed, that's the way it's laid out and set up, and it's intentional. Like, that's why these companies are so successful. So the first thing was that I wanted to say that you probably already have everything you need at home. It's very rare that I would find that there's something I absolutely need to get. I don't want to go into a shop any more than I absolutely have to at the moment, because it's just tempting fate. Like, there's no point in putting yourself in a situation where you know that you're going to end up spending money, and if you get out of there without doing it, you feel almost like you've dodged a bullet. Like, it's better to just stay away from the shops altogether. Another point was that I wanted to make was that shopping doesn't make you feel as good as you think that it does. Like, I in the past have thought that shopping made me happy, or it cured certain problems, or like it just was like something that de-stressed me, but none of that is actually true. I feel like those are the lies that we're fed in a consumer society, and actually, like, shopping's just like getting a fix. It's like any other addiction. You get a rush for a few minutes, and then it's like, okay, where do I get my next fix? And then you're always on to the next one. Like, you're never satisfied, and it's never the final one. So it's like breaking this chain that we've kind of been conditioned to be part of. Like, I just think that whenever I started the no buy month, for example, I feel like before I started it, I had got into some bad spending habits, and I really wanted to correct them, and I felt like doing it in a kind of more radical way would have more of an impact and would make me think about things. And because I'd kind of promised myself that I would do it, it was almost like I had this kind of contract with myself that I couldn't break. Like, I've promised myself that I will not buy things I don't need for a month, and there's like an end point too, so it feels more achievable. But I think with the first couple of days, I definitely felt like withdrawal symptoms, and I had to nearly like sit on my hands to stop myself getting in the car and doing what I usually do when my kids are at school and being like, okay, I need to go to Home Bargains to get this one thing, or the girls need this. It just becomes like, basically you're just feeding your shopping addiction. After the initial withdrawal period, which I found only lasted a couple of days, I felt relief and clear-headed about everything, and I no longer felt the overwhelming urge to buy anything. Like, I do get moments where I feel like I have a weakness, where I'll think, oh, I really want to do this, or I really want to buy that, but it passes quite quickly. Whereas before I started this no buy month, I felt like it was kind of all consuming, and if I got an idea in my head of something I wanted to buy or thought I needed to buy, it would be all I could think about until I had like achieved that aim. Basically, I feel like more centered now, and it's the same as like, because I used to smoke, and I think that there's not much of a difference between smoking and shopping, like, because the symptoms of it are kind of the same. It's like you feel the urge, you feel like you have to do it, that you can't like get by without doing it, and you'll only feel okay once you've done it, and then after you feel like kind of ashamed and guilty. Basically, like, you're annoyed with yourself that you've fallen prey to it again. So it's just like a cycle that you have to break. That's all it is. It's not anything majorly complicated, and I don't think that there has to be some sort of deep psychological reason for it, or even if there is, you can still break the cycle without having to go into like counselling necessarily to do it. Like, you just have to break the pattern of, okay, like, lift my card, get in the car, go to the shop, like, just keep replacing it with something else instead. And it reminds me of something that I was taught by a counsellor actually in the past, and it was that it's whenever you've done something so many times, like over and over and over consistently, it creates this groove in your mind where it's like your mind just goes down that same groove without even thinking. It's just like an automatic reaction, but you are able to create a new groove by just like carving one out on purpose. Like, if you keep, it might, the first day, like for example, it's not going to make a mark, so you're going to feel like it's unnatural to you, and it would be easier to fall back into just shopping. But if you keep redirecting yourself and being like, okay, instead of that, I'm doing this today, I'm doing this today, if you repeat that over and over, it becomes your new habit, and then there's a new groove, and you don't like fall back into the old one. It starts to disappear as if it's kind of like grown over with like moss or something, because it's like just been an abandoned area for a while. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. It kind of makes sense to me, but yeah, hearing that really helped me in the situation that I was in at the time, which had nothing to do with shopping, but I think it can also be applied to that. I find that shopping, like, rather than making you feel good, it makes you feel overstimulated, drained, filled with regret, and it gives you money worries to take home with you. Like, what do you really take home with you when you've been shopping other than bags of stuff, and then also like bags of worries, because then you're like anxious about your financial situation, how you're going to pay for everything. If you've kind of misdirected your funds, you're like worrying about, okay, now I have to cover this somehow, how am I going to do that? And I just think it creates like a whole array of problems like that you don't need to have if you just avoid it in the first place. And I'm talking to myself here too. I don't want to feel like anybody feels like I'm sitting being judgmental and like telling them what to do. So yeah, my kids are out playing with their friends at the minute, and I sort of expect there to be a lot of interruptions, but thankfully I can edit it out. But I'm just going to, they seem to be really happy playing with their friends on the street, so I'm just going to keep going with this. So another thing that I thought of whenever I was like trying to figure out my train of thought for talking myself out of buying stuff is the thought that there are a million other better things you could be doing instead of spending money. Like, you could be so much more productive and creative and feel genuinely fulfilled by the activities you're doing. Shopping is just kind of like very badly plugging a leak. Like, it's like shoving something in a hole so that it won't gush everywhere, but actually the quick fix for that is just going to create more mess long term. And I just think that there's so many better ways to spend your time, and you might be sort of trapped at the moment in a shopping cycle where you think that it's the only thing that's going to make you happy, but that's just a lie. And there's so many things that are much more fun than shopping. And in the end of the day, when you shop, you're just bringing home more stuff to deal with later. Like, you need to find somewhere to put it. You need to probably get rid of something else to make room for it. If not that moment, then later on. Like, it's just adding to your decluttering tasks later. And if you I find it helpful to go around my house and look at individual items and think, where did I get that? Do I love it? How long has it actually lasted for? Like, think about if it was something you bought, if it was like an impulse buy, if it was like a gift from someone, for example. Think about the things that actually hold meaning for you, or they're just practical to you, and think, were any of these impulse buys? Probably you'll find the majority of them weren't. Like, a lot of the objects that mean things to me that are around my house are actually things my kids have made, or things we've made together, or like a unique item that you have found somewhere that like it really stood out to you and you knew that you wouldn't find anything else like it again. Not like cheap plastic rubbish that you just picked up in the shop when you went shopping because you were bored, or because you felt the urge to buy something, like something or anything. Like, think about as well, if you were offered the items for free, would you want them? That is a good indication, I think, of whether or not something is actually of any value to you. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I think people buy that are because they're like a bargain, because they're £1 or £2, but if they were offered to you for free, would you think that they were worth taking? And I know that some people might just take everything home with them in a kind of like hoarding things and keeping things for later sort of way, but do you think you would hold on to them forever and really like be glad that you had them? Like, most of the items I think that we just like spend a couple of pounds on here or there that add up to a lot overall, they're not really worth much, and they're not made to last, and they're seasonal, like, but not in the way that things used to be seasonal. Like, I like the idea of having, for example, excuse the washing machine, but as you know, probably by now it's always on in our house. For example, like in the past, I really liked the way that people had like a selection of favourite, for example, Christmas decorations, and they brought them out every single year, which we actually do. A lot of my Christmas decorations are hand-me-downs from my parents, because my dad is really into Christmas, and he used to collect Christmas decorations from different countries and stuff. So as they have kind of streamlined everything and found like a simpler way of decorating that they're happier with, then my sister and I inherited the decorations they were no longer using. So I've been using the same ones for years. They're perfectly fine. They work really well. They're lasting. And I feel like that attitude of having something that you love, you look forward to getting it out, you know that it's going to serve its purpose every year and you can rely on it. It's not just something that is like cheap and tacky and it is like to decorate a space and then throw away at the end of that season. Like, I just think that's really depressing. And I think if you also think of like the volume of those items that are churned out and like just how many there are of one item, it makes it kind of lose its feeling of being special, because you just think that everybody in the country probably has the same thing and there's no character to it. I also like to think of Landfill, and I've been watching more and more videos about like anti-consumerism and like minimalism and just environmentalism, and just thinking of all the objects that you have acquired over the years just through kind of needless spending, but then it will just go to end up in landfill. It's really sad to think of that, and just think of the huge amount of waste and how continuing with our shopping like habits is perpetuating that problem. And I just like to think about like how inevitable it is that most of the stuff or all of the stuff that we have is going to end up there. So I just want the stuff that I have and that I buy to be stuff that I've found true value in and I've used it to death, so that when it does probably eventually end up in landfill, it will have had a long life and really served me well, and not just being like a purchase that I regretted as soon as I handed over my card. I also like to think about, like, what do you want your legacy to be? Like, if you think about it in comparison to how long the planet has been here, we're only here for a very short time as individuals, and I just like to think about, like, do I want my imprint on the planet to be good or bad? Like, I, in my short time here, have the choice to be wasteful and materialistic and have a bad effect on the planet, or I can do as much as I can to look after it, contribute positive things to it, and be really like mindful of what I'm using and really appreciate the things that I have and use them as much as they possibly can be used, and to get quality items that I've thought through rather than just like tat. So basically nothing you buy is going to make you happy long term. Even the items that we love, like, you could probably quite easily live without them if you had to. And there was a time in the past where I lost like all my possessions basically, and that time, possessions wise, I feel like it was the least stressful time of my life because I felt unburdened by stuff. Like, I just had a very, very small amount of items and I didn't miss anything that I had left behind, and I had no access to it, so I didn't have the option to go and pick through it and be like, what do I keep, what do I get rid of? It was just all gone. And I miss how freeing that was, because you just naturally do tend to acquire things, especially when you have kids and you've been settled in a house for longer. But I just want to remember the spirit of that, and remember that I was happy at that point when I wasn't buying loads of stuff. I didn't have a lot of stuff, and I actually probably felt the lightest that I've ever felt. So yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to think twice before you go shopping or order stuff online, which is actually in some ways more dangerous because it's so easily done and you don't even have to bring it home with you, and everything is accessible at once. And just to remember that shopping isn't going to solve your problems, and the things that are going to solve your problems and make your life better, you will probably only find them when you actually kind of retire from shopping, so that you can get clearer on what you really want from life and you're not distracted by all these bright shiny things that will inevitably become dull and boring once you've brought them home, and just another thing that adds to your to-do list. So I hope this video is helpful to someone. Thanks for joining me. I am going to try and focus on sticking with my no-buy and being resourceful and like looking after what I have. So one of the projects that I'm doing today is this dress that my boyfriend got. It had like like a corset style ribbon attached to the sides of it, and it had these are the ones I've been doing, but before it had ribbon, like holders for the ribbon, for the longer ribbon. I'm explaining this really badly, but anyway, they frayed and fell off. So instead of getting rid of it or going out and buying something to fix it, I found some elastic in my sewing box that I had bought for a sewing project a while ago when I made a skirt, and I just cut them short and looped them through these are the rings that came with the dress, and I'm just going to replace all of them with elastic because it's stretchy, so it's not going to fray when you pull on it. And I just think like it seems like a sensible kind of solution to the problem, plus then I get to keep the dress, because my boyfriend, when he saw it, was like, I'll buy you another one, and I was like, no, I don't need to get another one, like I can fix it. And I also have my Simple Things magazine, which I really love, and I do feel like this is a worthwhile purchase. I'm not sponsored by them, I just really love that magazine. And if you don't want to buy the print version, because I like to read on paper, I think that's the problem, but I know if you're in the UK you can get the Libby app and it is on that if you want to read the digital version. And I also happen to have my Tightwad Gazette out to inspire myself and give myself ideas for money saving tips. And I also need to drink my coffee. Every time I make coffee for a video to sit down and drink coffee with you and chat, I forget it's here. And yeah, I'm one of those people that reheats their coffee about 15 times a day, and then I always find my coffee from the previous day in the microwave the next day. But I will actually drink this because it's a pumpkin latte. And yeah, I took the girls swimming this morning and that was free because we have membership and they get free swimming anytime they want with the swimming lessons that they get. And after, my daughter had brought her purse with her, and she had a couple of pounds, and she said, could she go to the cafe and get something? And my first thought was, oh no, that's going to tempt me to get coffee or to just buy us stuff and just sit in it, because it'll be like lunchtime then, and it'll just be tempting. But I decided to stay firm. I didn't buy coffee there, and I reminded myself that I could make a pumpkin latte instead of just getting an Americano, and I could make my coffee how I wanted. And I knew we had like cheese and bread and stuff, so I decided to make grilled cheeses for lunch and fruit and crisps at home. And it just felt better to do it myself and to not do the lazy and easy thing that I would kind of feel bad about afterwards. And I'm just finding the no buy month so eye-opening, and it's making me stop and question everything and go to more effort to avoid spending money, because I always regret it after the event. And thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and feel free to comment below if you want to chat about anything, and have a great day. I'll make another video soon. Bye.